Welcome to the Painting Insights podcast. We have been working on something in the background.
That's right. We've actually started a Patreon channel. We've had previous guests revisit the channel to give us additional content, everything from studio tours, sketchbook tours, talking us through the process of paintings and all kinds of additional treats, which you're exclusively going to see as a patron who supports the channel.
So by supporting us on Patreon, you help the channel keep going. There's a lot of work put into this, from the video editing to the sourcing of guests. So you really help us find those guests and to put the content out.
And we have lots of content planned for the near future. So the links for that will be in the description of this video and in the description on the podcast channels. And otherwise, you can go on to Patreon and type in Painting Insights Podcast and support us that way. Thanks very much. Enjoy the video. Would you mind introducing yourself for the audience, please?
Yeah, hi Simon. My name's Michael John Ashcroft. I'm an artist living in Lancashire, a stone's throw for a train ride from Manchester. I'm a member of the Royal Institute of Oil Painters and also a member of the Manchester Academy of Fine Arts. I've been painting for about 30 years, but longer than that, since I was a kid,
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And I will be asking you more questions about that. But as we've just discussed off camera, we should really get out of the way.
Get the elephant out of the room.
Exactly. Yeah. What previously happened was that we did have this conversation a couple of weeks ago and meet up to do your episode. And then it went so well, and then by the very end, I went to stop the recording and realised that I hadn't pressed the record button. It just never happened before.
Oh, we couldn't believe it, could we?
No, it was absolutely tragic because, like I said, it was just rolled really well as well. The conversation was great. So the pressure's on to try and recapture the magic, but I'm sure.
We just had a good chat for 2 hours, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
Yeah.
But there we are. So I'm going to try and, because I can't really remember what we talked about. I've had other interviews since, and I've not been able to revisit it, obviously, with it not being recorded. So I can't remember exactly what ground we covered. So I'm just going to go through it all again with you. And then as you answer, I'm sure I'll go, that's right.
I'm sure all my answers might be different this time. That's trouble, isn't it? I forget what I've said.
Good thing for you is there's no comparison now, so there's no evidence that you said anything else.
Yeah.
Royal Institute of Oil Painters. How long have you been a member of Royal Institute of Oil Painters?
Oh, see, I'm stuck on first question already. How long have I been a member? 4 years. I'm rubbish with dates, Simon.
Okay.
But 4 years, 5 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I can't remember now. I don't look at life in years. I never, I always I forget. I'm rubbish for years, but not that long anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you said, so you initially said you've been painting for 30 years, and then you said you've been painting all your life. But is 30 years a kind of significant kind of push to be more professional, or what's that?
Well, I always think of that 30 years as the time when I started thinking about it more seriously, which was the time around when I had this tumor removed from the left side of my head. So, and that was in the mid 90s, mid to late 90s. So that's how I was calculating. But I was painting and sketching and doing all kind of crafty things before that, while I was an engineer. But that, I always look at that 30 years from then. So that's how I calculate it, really.
So what was what happened? You had a tumor on the side of your head. When did
Yeah, so I had I was having problems when I was I was probably a teenager. I was having a few problems. I could tell something weren't right, and it took a while to get diagnosed with this tumor. It was I'm talking like probably about 5 years on and off to the doctors, and anyway, I finally went for a scan, and they said, "Oh, you have a brain." The young doctor, they were all stood around the bed, and he said, "Oh," I said, "Did you find out what was wrong with me?" Because and he said, "Oh yeah, you've got a brain tumor." I was like, "Oh right, oh thanks, right, thanks for letting me know." And I remember ringing my wife Debbie and saying, and she said, "Oh, you got your results?" I said, "Yeah, I've got a brain tumor." She went, "What? Stop messing about." I said, "No, honestly." And we were sort of not laughing about it, but we were like, really? It didn't sink in. And yeah, so from then on, it was a series of scans, seeing doctors, specialists in Manchester. I found out I had a rare genetic disorder that creates multiple tumors. Benign, usually benign, so that in that sense it was lucky. But and yeah, had this one removed. It was about the size of it was bigger than, it was about the size of a peach. I think the side of me, just behind, deep behind my left ear, and had that removed in 1997, was it? 97, 98, 97, and at Manchester Royal. And yeah, it was a big 12-hour operation, but I lost my voice. I lost paralysis on my left side, so I lost my voice, my swallowing, all the muscles in my shoulder, nerves were taken out. Yeah, it was a big op, so it was a bit of a shock to me because I was sort of ambling on through life as you do, and a young lad and enjoying life, and then that came along. It's a bit of a shock, to be honest, but yeah.
and that really changed the course of your life for art making? You started to take it seriously then?
Yeah, it changed my life in different ways. I mean, physically. I mean, I lost my voice. It's better now because they put an implant in to fix the paralyzed vocal cord. But back then, I didn't even have a very breathy voice. And I was a sociable person. I was always wanting to go out, and so really that side hit me hard. I was deaf. I ended up deaf in this ear as well. Yeah, it was tricky. It was a tricky time, but I found art again. Really, I've always been interested in it, but it was sort of a catalyst for me to get back into it more seriously. I saw my reflection in the window of the hospital, and it was sort of a real poignant moment where it just stopped me in my tracks and made me think, that life's too short and you've got to do what you want to do, you know. And that's what I did, but I shuffled to the window one day and I saw my reflection, and I I had a big scar on the left side and all the hair was shaved off. But on the right side, I looked quite normal and the sun was shining through the window. It was like a brown tinted window. And there's sort of a real sharp line down the middle of my face. And so this side was in sunlight and warm and just looked like my old self. I was only in my late 20s. And the line broke there, and then this side, my face had dropped as well. My eye was watering. I had a big scar right down here. All my head was shaved, and all that was in shadow. and it was just such a powerful image. I just thought, I've got to record this image, and it gave me, I think it gave me a purpose. I was in hospital and I was getting visitors, but then in between visitors, you're just lying there, and I couldn't swallow proper, and I couldn't speak to the nurses proper. And I just kept thinking about recording this image, and it just, I thought, how can I record it? I've got to record it somehow, sketch it or paint whatever, or write about it even. I wasn't sure, but I never looked back from that really.
That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
yeah. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it either, which is a bizarre thing to say. That moment, the whole thing in my life changed from then on. And becoming an artist and everything. So it's I wouldn't change it. It's a bizarre thing to say. At the time, I probably would have done, but
But it makes you wonder whether you would have never returned to art if
yeah,
it wasn't the case, and you
yeah,
hadn't seen your reflection that way. Because it's a powerful mental image for everyone watching and listening. It is for me to hear
yeah.
all that, because you can almost see it. What you were seeing, and
Yeah, it still is. It still is for me today. Even when I talk about it now, it brings back those memories, and it's still a powerful moment, to remember, to think
yeah.
about. Yeah.
So I'm guessing that from there, if you were in your early 20s, were you already educated in art making, or did you have to kind of seek out, some kind of tutorage for that?
Well, my mum was an artist, so there was always art materials, art paintings, drawings, crafty things, always stuff going on in the house. So I've been brought up around it, and it was the only subject I was ever good at school. We used to have art on a Friday afternoon. I remember it. And we used to have games. We used to have PE. We used to call it physical education. I don't to call it that now. Games and then art. I used to love it on Friday afternoons, and then finish for weekend. I was the only. I was never academic. I was always good at art, and so I guess it's always, they say, oh, I think it's like a natural thing for me to paint and draw. But I think that's where it came from really. But I did take some. I'm self-taught really. So I started to teach myself about art. Then I did take some classes with a good friend of mine, Norman Long. He's a really good painter, and so he taught me quite a bit about oil paints and things. So because my mum was a watercolorist, so I didn't really, and I was never keen on watercolor. Although I'm changing my thoughts on watercolors now. I'm really interested in them at the minute. But so here's watercolor. So for me to go, I wanted to get interested. I was interested in oils, and I did a couple of night school classes with Norman. He's become a good friend now, but he taught me a lot. But I'm basically self-taught. I would, every time I had a hospital appointment in Manchester, I would always go. Get the appointment out of the way and then treat myself to a visit to the gallery, and I sort of go to the Whitworth Gallery or the Manchester Art Gallery. I'd go and have a coffee, take my sketchbook, go and sketch some of the paintings in there, and come back, and then I'd teach myself about colour, and I'd stay up to early hours just mixing colours at night. I had a little box room then, and I'd just stay up till the early hours, teaching myself, looking at the masters, teaching myself about how did they mix that, how did they do that, and But I think I did have a bit of a natural ability as well. I'm not a great sketcher. I mean, I don't keep a lot of sketchbooks, but I've always been able to see a painting. I think, you know, a composition, or I've always been able to find a beauty in something that's quite normal, maybe, or plain. You know what I mean? So yeah, I wouldn't say I was the best sketcher, but you know, I think I can, I can see things like that, you know.
And how did you come to meet Norman Long? Was he in the gallery when you were sketching, or did you know him outside of art?
I think he was. Oh, he was. I think I would take him. Yeah, I would take him in motorbike once to get it serviced. So I managed to get back on my motorbike, and I didn't was like whether to sell it, if I remember, because it was a race bike, and I was trying to keep my head up, and I'd lost all my nerves in my neck, so it was like I was trying to, and I couldn't keep. It sounds funny now. I couldn't keep my head up, which was these muscles weren't strong enough to. I'm all right. I'm all right now. This side is compensated, but I remember seeing him on the side of the road painting in Preston, and I thought, look at him. He's painting. He's painting outdoors. That's brilliant. So I took my bike in, and then I sort of walked down. And I remember chatting to him and saying, "Well, do you mind if I have a look?" And he said, "No." And we got chatting, and I thought, brilliant, that. I thought it was really good, you know. And and we become really good friends, now. That was years ago. And I was just really interested in that, painting outdoors, you know. And I said to him, "Oh, I'm doing my A level. I did my A level as well. I did that at night school. It was packed into 12 months, this A level course. It was a bit nuts. It was a bit intense. There was no teaching of painting or anything like that. It was just like, you've got this project to do. Go and do this project now. You need it by next week." It was like, what? It was a bit mad, but it was good. But so that's. Yeah, so I was telling him I was doing this A level, and he was interested, you know. And then he said, "Oh, well, I'd run a couple of oil painting classes, just like, you know, for adults, just for like a 10-week thing at a studio or something." I think it was. I can't remember now. Oh no, I think he was working for the college then. So because I was at the college in A level, I said, "Oh, well, I'll do that as well." So I kind of did a couple of courses with him. And then we became friends. So that's. But I was already teaching myself. Do you know what I mean? I was already into oil painting, but it did give me a bit of a boost to, you know, to learn a few things from Norman. He's a great artist, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he did an exhibition with my brother last year, and there were a handful of artists in Preston. This was, and
yeah.
And he has some really interesting, very loose work. I really like his really loose work, where I think it was inside a pub and it was of people, but from close up, you just couldn't see what it was. And from far away, you start to see faces, and, you know, you can piece it together a little bit easier. And
if it was inside a pub, I'll probably have been there. Sorry, go on. Sorry.
But I was going to say that he also has work that's not as loose. So I think it's quite interesting how he does have several approaches to painting that I think are really nice. I didn't get the opportunity to meet him, to be honest. I was hoping to, but he was constantly engaged in a conversation, so I didn't want to interrupt. But I was going to segue into your relation to pubs, because you paint pubs quite often.
I do like a pub. I do like a pub. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I don't know what. I think people have asked me, what is it about pubs? I don't know. I don't know what it is. I can't. I say, like, oh, it's the atmosphere, it's the smell. I like a pint. I don't know. I've always been sociable, like I say, and I've always enjoyed going to the pub. I'm not a raging alcoholic, by the way. And my granddad always used to take us to some country pubs when we were little, like take the whole family, and he had this big old Daimler, and he'd take us to this, find a country pub, and once every 3 months or something, we'd go off to this pub and we'd have a lunch, and we're only like 7 or 8 or something. But we did, we did it often. So I grew up doing that, and we still did it till not long before he died. He was still treating everyone, the whole family, to lunch out in these country pubs, and I loved it. I was looking forward to it, roaring fire, the smell of the beer, the food. So yeah, so I was fascinated. I still am. I still love a pub, and it's bloody dangerous, that, isn't it? Because
Well, I've got a vague memory of you telling me a story about your favourite pub in the Cotswolds. Is there a story there which you remember telling me? Because there was one about you painting outside and your wife bringing you a pint outside.
oh yeah, there is. Yeah, we talked about this, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was exhibiting in a gallery in Broadway in the Cotswolds, and I thought, I think we've gone there, almost gone down with the family. So the kids were only small. I think my lad was probably about 7, something like that. I think he was maybe like younger than that, maybe 6, 7. And sort of, I think we'd been to the gallery, and then I said, "Well, I'm going to go painting." So the family went off around the shops and stuff. So I thought, well, I'm gonna go and paint my favourite pub, which was like the Crown and Trumpet. If anybody knows Broadway, they'll know the Crown and Trumpet. It's just a gorgeous pub, and so I went painting that, and then of course the family turned up and went to the pub to get me, and my wife Debbie said, "Do you want a pint? Bring it over." I thought, "Do I? That's lovely." Well, I thought, what a great job, because I was painting on the other side of the road on this little grass bank, and my lad, and then she sent my lad over with it, carrying this pint. It was so great. I still remember it. I remember looking, thinking, yeah, living the dream's great, this, isn't it? You know what I mean? Stood here in the sun painting a pub, and my lad's bringing a pint over. It's bloody marvellous, isn't it? But yeah, and it ended up it was quite a good painting. I ended up keeping it as well, which is nice. So I think I've got it here.
Have you?
Yeah, to have a look at it.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah, some paintings I've kept, you see, and I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, lovely.
Can you see it there?
Yeah, I can. That's beautiful.
Yeah, well, that's the Crown and Trumpet.
That's fantastic. I love the composition as well. It's just beautifully composed. That's
yeah,
really nice.
It was a time when I thought, I can't remember what year it was, that, honestly, but it was a time when I thought I was painting it, and I thought, wow, I can do this. I can do this. I remember looking at it and thinking, yeah, it's good. I like it. It's good because I've done a lot outdoors and thought, what a load of rubbish, and and the times you think about giving up, it's a lot. So yeah, I remember thinking, I can do this. I can do it. But of course I went out the next day and did a rubbish one again. It's like playing golf. I always think of it like playing golf. You do a good shot and you think you're the best golfer in the world, and then next thing you're in the rough, aren't you? Yeah.
Well, how long do you give yourself? Do you kind of do it all outside, or do you take it back to the studio and finish it off in the studio?
When I was a bit younger, I could do up to three in a day, 3 studies. Probably not finished painting, or some of them. I mean, I think that was more or less finished on the spot, except for what I like to do is just take them out of the from away from the location, and then back into the studio or wherever, because I always find that you can see what's wrong with it in some ways, because you sort of get stuck in looking at the view, and it's like walking away in it, I suppose, for an hour and coming back. But I would never, if I took it back to the studio, I would never be on it for more than half an hour, 30 minutes, if possible. I mean, that's gone out the window sometimes, because it ends up a different painting. But of course, that's gone out the window. I've worked on it 30 minutes, and then next thing I know, I've been on it 2 hours. I've completely wrecked it. Do you know what I mean? And it's a different paint, and you end up scrubbing it off, because it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that freshness that you get painting on location, you know. So I do like to take it back. I tend to do that a lot now. I probably do less paintings now. I probably do one, maybe two now, working on a day. Because I'm a bit older, I think. But I would do them and take them back. Yeah, I think I do that more
I mean,
often.
if you're doing 3 paintings in a day, I mean, is that 2 hours a session, or how long do you give yourself when you're painting?
Well, do you know, like I did one the other day in the snow. We had a lot of snow here the other day, and I put a video up on YouTube. I've started putting some videos up on YouTube. I don't know if they're any good or not. I mean, but I used to love doing these little 6B8 oil sketches. So I'd sort of limit myself to an hour. You know, so if it was a small like that, then I would limit myself to an hour. But I'm not talking like an intricate street scene. It's more about looking at the tonal values, the shapes, you know, getting the colours spot on. It's more about stuff like that, really. The painting outdoors for me. I know there's a lot of artists that can go out there and finish a complete painting, like a large painting, maybe in two or three sessions or whatever. But I've always kind of painted smaller outside, more a study to me. I remember seeing Constable's oil sketches at the V&A, and it just blew me away. Honestly, I was like, wow, these are amazing, you know. So fresh. I mean, they look like they'd been done yesterday. You know what I mean? And I saw Corot's plein air, some of his plein air work at the National Gallery. And again, it's just like, wow, just beautiful. I think Corot only worked small oil sketches outdoors, and worked up to bigger pieces, you know. But you know, like I said, some artists can work big and produce finished paintings, you know, outdoors. But I don't think that's for me. You know, I've tried it. Yeah, I prefer the smaller oil stuff. Yeah, oil sketches.
Well, when you say you're looking for tonal, or you say, you know, that's what you get is kind of tonal observations. Is this kind of, you recently posted Alderley Edge 9x20, because that's beautiful. I love the way that you finished that. The brushwork is gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's nice, and it's kind of a famous spot, Alderley Edge. It's very well known. So yeah. And was that in situ as well? Were you doing that out there?
That one was done from a study that I'd done in situ. So so it was done in the studio, but it was I had the study, or I've been there and done it. It's funny with the landscapes. I can paint them in the studio, but I can't. I've got to have been there and painted a study, or at least felt the place. I've got to have been there physically. So I can, but I can only do them in the studio because of the amount of hours I've put outside to get the colours right. Because I know when you're in the studio, it's completely different. The colours are completely different under the lights. I know what colours make up that sky colour because I've been there and done it outdoors. It's the only way you can do it. So yeah. So the Alderley Edge, it's a bit of a trek from the road to that view. There's amazing view. It's not a bit of a trek, but when you've got all your gear and stuff, you ease up. And yes, it's an amazing view. So I've done maybe 3 or 4 of that from that study, you know. And sometimes when I just fancy painting a loose landscape, then I'll go back and I can do it in the studio if I'm not, you know, if I'm not out there. But I prefer to be out there, but sometimes you can't always get out. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that one was done from the studio, but in the studio, but from a study. Yeah.
And will you kind of change much from the study to this piece that you're painting?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not. Yeah, if I'm doing it for the first time, if I've gone to paint a study, if I want to do painting, I've gone to do an oil sketch outdoors, then the oil painting back in the studio will be very similar to the study, right? So that's why I've gone to do the oil sketch. I recently did one in Bamborough Castle. It was a commission. So actually, funnily enough, that ended up totally different to the oil sketch. Thinking about it, because I think I'd gone to paint. I did a lovely little oil sketch on location, and I thought, yeah, great. But I can scale this up. It'll be brilliant. But I sort of liaised with the lovely lady that wanted the commission doing, and it sort of evolved into something else, which was fine, and actually it turned out to be a great painting. But I'd still needed that study to have the feel of it. Do you know what I mean? And work off it, and I took bits from it and put it into the main painting. But if once I've done all that, I'll still use the oil sketch to work on other stuff as well, you know. So I will do. They all evolve, you know, and I change the sky color or I'll change the composition, but I'll still need that oil sketch just to give me that inspiration or that feeling, you know, and the colors and things. But I'll change the colors, you know, don't bother me, you know. But I still need it, yeah.
And you keep all the oil sketches, you've got them stored somewhere?
I've got a lot, but of course, oil sketches back when the masters used to do them, they were never seen, were they? They were like, that's what they were used for, and they were probably thrown in a drawer. But these days, you can sell your oil sketches, can't you?
Yeah.
I think there's something nice about them, isn't there? You know, they're like of the moment. So yeah, so I've sold lots of oil sketches, you know, and do sell them, you know. So some people like them, and some people prefer finished painting, you know.
Yeah. Well, my next question would have been, would you consider exhibiting them? Because I'd love to go to an exhibition full of oil sketches, because, as you said, it's got the energy of the moment where you can see the ideas being generated and the environment being captured and absorbed in that time, which is what feeds into the finished painting. So yeah, it's
oh yeah, definitely. But I had a small painting show at Contemporary 6 in Manchester. It was a couple of years ago now. Can't remember. And that was really good. But I'd love to do like well, I've just got a load of small boards again, because I'm getting back into doing these small oils, and because I've got this camper van now. I bought a camper van. I've got me my motorbike, my scrambler, my train. So we bought this camper van now, and I bought a trailer to put the motorbike on. So we're going to go off and do some. I'm going to go off. Well, I don't know if Debbie's going to come, but I'm sure she will. But we're going to go off and do some painting adventures. So I'm buzzing for that. So I've got all these little boards now. So I'm going to get back into doing these little small, like 8x6 oils, which I used to love doing, and get back into them again. I think so. Yeah, looking forward.
Are you going to tour the country then? Is that the plan, or are you going to?
Well, in my head, yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, it sounds great, But, yeah, I'm gonna try, yeah,
Yeah. Well, the camper van, it kind of suggests that there's some on the road necessity.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to go back to base camp. You can.
Yeah. Trouble is, you've got all your gear. There's nowhere to store it in a camper van, is there? So, I don't know. But yeah, I'm gonna see what happens and try and put maybe a few more videos. I'm quite enjoy doing.
Yeah.
These videos. I don't even know. I don't think anyone watches them, but
well, I'll be subscribing because the last time I spoke to you, I don't think you mentioned that you had a YouTube channel. So I'll.
Yeah, well, it's sort of. I've only just. Well, just started it. I've probably had a couple of years, but it's been a bit sporadic. It's been like, one video and then 6 months later, I better do a video for it. It's been a bit like that. But I'm going to try and do it a bit more. I quite enjoy the editing and all this stuff, that goes with it. It's quite good. But watch this. I don't know.
No, brilliant. I'll definitely be showing it on the video of this episode. And it'll be linked in the description of the video and audio for anyone to check out. I'm going to check it out because that sounds exciting.
It's not great. It's not that good.
Well, I don't know if it shows you painting. I'm keen to see it. I mean, I have 4 YouTube channels that are active, so I'm up to my eyeballs in commitments with it because I think that the key for me is consistency to always upload as often as possible. But it's
that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's still hit and miss with the algorithm. So, I can't say that's the key to success because I've not had any success with it yet.
Oh, I'll subscribe to you then. You subscribe to me.
Deal. But yeah, I should also mention you're part of a group called the Northern Boys. Is that right? Yeah.
I am. Yeah, the Northern Boys. Yeah.
Because on this podcast we've had Andrew Farmer.
So great painter, Andrew. Yeah,
good bloke. And I met Rob Poynton at Priory Park Gallery where he had an exhibition, and we did discuss and agree for him to be on the podcast. And then I just got too busy to follow up with him. All he said was just send me an email, we'll work it out. Yeah. I was going to drive to go and see him, spend time with him out painting and film him and do a big. Which would be great, but that's going to have to be season 5. We're on season 4 currently, so that's going to have to be next season because I just couldn't fit it in. But that's another one of the Northern Boys. How long? And there's a female painter in the Northern Boys, is that right?
There's a female painter, Hayley Jo Summers. She's vice president of the ROI now, so that's my phone going off, isn't it? I'm going to stop it. Didn't put it on silent. Yeah, she's a member of she's a vice president of the Royal Institute of Oil Painters, and there's 9 chaps. So 9 chaps and 1 lady. So Hayley loves it.
Again, she's supposed to be on the podcast at some point. I think she was just too busy with exhibitions, so hopefully she'll feature next season as well.
Yeah, she's a fantastic painter. She's so busy. I think she's been away this last week again, so you'll do well to tie her down to but she's great. She's a lovely person. She's a really good painter. Yeah.
I think persistence and patience is key with booking artists. You got to make it sure it's for extra day schedule, but be persistent on nagging and you'll get them eventually. But so how does the collective work? Do you kind of get together and do shows together, or how is it?
We do. We've not got together recently. We've all kind of been doing our own thing, which has been good. I've quite enjoyed getting back in the studio. But having said that, I have missed the camaraderie and the trips that we've taken. I mean, we've been out. We've had some amazing trips. What one that springs to mind was Edinburgh in December, and it was like I think I came back with a chest infection. Freezing. It was absolutely freezing. But honestly, we were out there. Everybody was out there day in, day out for a week. I mean, some of us were out in early hours. Not me. I hasten to add, the early hours in the morning. Not me. But we've had some brilliant trips. I remember on the last day, I was like, oh, I'm not getting up today. I'm having a lie. We'd all share rooms, we'd all share. And I think I was sharing with Rob and Steve. And I said, I'm having a lie in. I said, I'm not coming out today. So they all went, but we're going up Colton Hill, is it Colton Hill, to look over Edinburgh. I said, no. I'm not coming. I'll have a minute. And they'd all gone out early, like 5 a.m. And I think, and the flipping fire alarm went off in the hotel. So next thing, everybody's being ushered out of the hotel. So I'm there in my flaming t-shirt and my jammy bottoms, whatever, outside, freezing. They're all laughing at me because everyone had to come outside because they're all there in the painting gear, about to get in taxi to go painting. I said, well, I'm up now. I might as well come. So the whole on to leg back, got my gear, went back and went out and loved it. And honestly, I think I did one of the best paintings of the trip on that hill. Wow. And watching the sunrise, and it just reminded me that you should never say no. You know what I mean? You should never say, oh, I can't come today, because you just never know when you're going to do. You can't tell when you're going to do a good painting, can you? You just never know. And yeah, I loved it, and I always remember that moment. But we would tend to have a couple of trips a year, and then we'd catch up. Maybe if somebody was going into Manchester or over to Yorkshire, we have a chat so we can keep in touch, and we can meet up now and then. But like I said, we've all been doing our own thing recently, so we probably do a trip, to be honest. But
yeah, that's amazing, though. I mean, so you're not a morning person generally?
I used to be, Simon, but I'm getting a bit older now. I don't know.
Does it depend on the night before? Does it depend on?
Well, we tend to have a couple of beers with Northern boys. I must admit. Start of the week anyway. We get to end the week and we're waning a bit,
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to go to. We've been to Venice. I've probably been to Venice about 4 times. With the Northern boys, and we always used to go to this Irish bar. And this Irish bar in Venice. But it was great. They knew us, and some of the lads' paintings are hanging up in there.
Oh, lovely.
So it was really good, So if I go back to Venice again, I'm going to call in and have a pint of Guinness.
That's fantastic. By the way, you mentioned before that you were with Rob and Steve in a room. Who's Steve? Just because I don't know.
Steve Smith.
Steve Smith.
Yeah, he's one of Northern boys.
I'm not familiar. I'll have to look him up because I don't know all of the Northern boys.
Yeah.
My brother does, but I don't.
So he does some great still lives. He's just been made an associate member of the Royal Institute of Oil Painters.
Fantastic.
So now a lot of Northern boys are becoming members of the Royal Institute.
I love it. Fantastic. That's great. So yeah, if you meet up about a couple of times a year, is it hard to? I'm guessing it's hard to coordinate everyone's schedule to meet up. Is it sometimes not all of you, or do you try to make sure it's as many of you as possible to meet up for groups?
Yeah, so it's not. It never used to be all of us. Sometimes some couldn't make it or whatever. But I think it got to the point where nobody wanted to miss out because the trips are that good, the last few trips have been, I think, been all of us really.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good, and I like painting a group. You know, you do things that you wouldn't normally do. So, like for instance, that getting up early and painting on the top of Calton Hill in Edinburgh. You know, things like that, and even going to Edinburgh in December. I mean, I'd be like, if I was doing that on my own, I'd be sort of, it's going to be cold, isn't it? I'll paint in the studio, I think, this week. But when you're in a group, you want to go with it, you know, and yeah, it's been good. It's been good.
Yeah. But what was I going to say? That's right. I was going to ask you, because you do these plein air trips. Have you got this reduced kit now where it's as light as possible? Like, do you have a Pashard box, for example, or you have?
Yeah, I do. I've tried all sorts, but I used to have some little handmade Pashard boxes from a guy who made them on the internet, and I had a little 6x8 one, which is still working, and I had a 10x8 one, so you could put all the paint in the bottom. They had a pallet that you could slide out, and you could stack 3 boards in the back, and that was a 10x8 one as well. So I had a 10x8 one and a 6x8 one, which would do the same. So you could stack 3 boards in the back, so you could pack everything more or less in that, and a thing of it, and then you just put your tripod on, and away you go. And that was brilliant. But the 10x8 one, I used it that much, it ended up snapping off one day. I was in Cheshire somewhere, and the whole thing just fell off. The whole thing just split in two. So I've still got my 6x8, but he doesn't do them anymore. So I ended up getting I think a lot of artists were using it. I used my French easel for a while with all the tripods, but they're quite. I know Pete Brown uses his all the time, but they're quite. I find it. So if I'm going out on the motorbike, I've got to travel a bit lighter. So I at the time there was a lot of artists who were using that open box then, and they've actually gone bust now. But yeah, you had to get them from America. So I mean, they cost me something like 500 quid, but you can't stack the boards. There was nowhere to it wasn't a slide out pallet. There's nowhere to store your paint. So everything then had to go in your rucksack, which absolutely weighs a ton. So you can imagine when you're walking around Venice and it's red hot, and you're carrying this thing, and but so I've got to a point where I'm like, I've got these. I was saying to you, I've got these smaller boards again. So I'm thinking I'm gonna start going a bit more compact again, because it's just getting too heavy, all this gear. At my age. So yeah, so I've been actually just this week I've been looking at Pachards again, some smaller ones, white canvas carriers. So I'm gonna try and compact it a bit more again. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a big French easel, and it's probably the heaviest thing that I could take with me. It's so big and bulky. I mean, it's a sturdy piece of kit, but it's
And have
not.
you got all your paints in it as well? Because that weighs a ton.
Well, no, that's what I was going to ask you, is that I normally reduce my palette to go out, because I just think, how many things do I want to carry? And I'm not very logical or rational when it comes to being efficient with these things. I'll just think, oh, I'll take these paints and I'll take these brushes, and might try this one, and it'll turn out, twice the weight, because I've just been impulsive instead of thinking it through.
Yeah.
Are you the same, or do you reduce your palette, or what do you do when you go out?
As in, what do you mean paint wise? Do you mean
Yeah, I'll have a broader palette in my studio than I will when I go plein air painting. Do you do the same, or do you take?
Well, I used to have when I had the small Pachards, and say the one I was doing of the Crown and Trumpet, which was done on the small 10x8 box that I used to love. So when I had that, it was only a small palette. So I would, I've forgotten about this. So I'd have like 2 blues, 2 reds, 2 yellows, a brown, a white, and I think that was it. That was all I had on for them. So, and it, and it was good. But now, what I tend to do, because when I get up in the morning and I'm like, do I go and paint outside or do I go in the studio? Because I never decide really till morning. What I tend to do, if I'm in the studio the night before, I have a palette, a wooden palette, it's probably about this big, that fits into the open box Pashard, so it sits inside. So I made that myself. So you could take it out, and I could use it in the studio, or I could take the paints off it, put them on a bigger palette in the studio, and use them in there. So at night, scrape them back off, put them back on the smaller palette. Because what I do, I put them in the freezer at night. Now, I think we talked about this before, didn't we?
We did.
And you said, what?
Yeah.
Now, putting them in the freezer, I think, it stops them from drying. So when you first so I have the top shelf of the freezer. So when you first get them out, they're stiff. They're not frozen, by the way. They're just stiff. And by the time I've had breakfast, they're back to normal. So then I take them in the studio and you can work with them again. It's just a pain. It's just saving pain, really. Because it's quite expensive, isn't it? You know? So because of that, I put them in the freezer. And because I tend to use more colours in the studio, the palette has all the range of colours on it. So when I go outdoors, exactly, you might see on one of the YouTube videos, I've put on too many paints on the caption because I just tend to get it out of the freezer, put it in the plein air box, and off I go. So all the colours from the studio are on the palette now, but it's too many. It's way too many. But that's kind of what happened.
So is it a split primary, burnt umber and titanium white? Is that what it is? It's kind of like, because most people go cadmium red light. What's the thingy they do? They do alizarin crimson. Is it that type of split primary that you do where it's warm and cool for you? Blue, yellow, red?
Yeah. The smaller palette I used to have, I'm just trying to think what it was. It was titanium white, French Ultra and cerulean. Yeah, crimson, cad red, and cad yellow and lemon yellow. And then I think Naples yellow crept in. So I think that was the start of the downfall to the big house. And then cad orange crept in because it was like, oh. And then sap green crept in. Sap green, the dreaded sap green. Everyone said, oh, you can't use sap green. I love sap green. I don't know what it is. I don't know why people don't like it, but I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't use it straight on the canvas. I mix it with other colours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never used black. I would always mix a black from crimson, ultra blue, and a bit of sap green actually, which knocks it back a bit, and it gives a lovely deep black, not black, you know what I mean, more like a reddy colour, and I did that I learned that colour from day one of teaching myself to paint. I've never stopped using it. Never stopped using it. I've always to say, although I've varied it a bit from using Van Dyke Brown. I used a lot. That Van Dyke Brown was the brown I used.
I see.
Yeah. So I've mixed sometimes that with ultra to get a different kind of dark. So that was the original, but now I'm on about 18 colours now. I don't know what it is. 18, 20 colours, and then I have a bit where I have guest colours. I call it guest colours. So I end up with some colours that I put on, like, I don't know what they call purple madder or something, or whatever, chrome yellow. Oh, what's that lovely yellow that I use for glazing? What was that called? Indian
yellow.
yellow.
Lovely.
Lovely, dead transparent.
Mm.
Lovely for glazing. If you want to create like a reflection, you've got a dry painting. Yeah, so too many colours now,
Yeah.
But yeah, that Van Dyke brown's a lovely colour,
Mm.
quite a nude, quite versatile, neutral. I got that colour from painting up with John McCombs. He was past president of the Royal Institute of Oil Painters, and I loved his work. And this is early on when I was looking at artists, and I went to see him at his gallery in Delft in Saddleworth, and we become friends. And he was, well, we used to go painting with him every Tuesday night. So it'd be a heck of a trek from here up into Delft up onto Saddleworth. And I remember going from here. It'd be like you'd have your shorts on and your t-shirt, and then by the time you got up onto Saddleworth Moor, they're all there in cagoules and flipping like body warmers. It's ridiculous. It's like 20 degrees lower up there.
Yeah.
But he's such a great painter, and he's just passed away, actually, unfortunately. And but if you've not seen his work, Simon, I don't even know his work.
I know the name. I'm probably familiar. I can't conjure it in my.
Just sublime work. I just love his work. Always did. From very early on, he was a big inspiration to me. The sketchiness, the way he controlled the oils. It's such a good painter. Yeah.
I'll be showing it on the screen for anyone watching, because I do like to, any name that we bring up, I'll make sure that they're shown.
Yeah. I've got his paintings here on my wall, actually.
Oh, lovely. Oh, very nice. And what about cadmium orange? I just wanted to ask, how did that creep in? Was that something which is just easier than mixing it, or does it work as a mixing colour? Or
nail on the head, easier than mixing it.
Yeah.
And then I started using it then straight with, because you can mix it with cad yellow and cad red. But I started using them. It was just easy, like and when I started painting urban stuff when I started early on as a painter. I was fascinated by city and lights and things. As a young kid growing up, I was always amazed by the city and the lights and everything. And still am, I love it. And I think I forgot what we were saying now. What we were saying?
Cadmium orange, I think is over.
Yeah, cadmium orange. Yeah. So I think that's where it crept in as well for that. You know what I mean? For the lights and everything. But when I started getting onto the landscapes more, I started using the cad orange mixed with the greens, which give a lovely warm green. But but basically just easier to mix.
Yeah, great stuff. No, it's good to know, and it's interesting how the more you talk about your palette, the more you think, right, yeah, it does actually. I've got another yellow that came into it, Naples yellow as well, came part of the mix. What did Naples yellow offer? Was it, because I mean you had yellow ochre and cadmium yellow. So now,
I don't know. I think I don't use it. I think again I used to mix it with some greens to get some nice for grass and things. But I don't use it a lot in mix. I tend to just mix it with white and just give flicks of light and things. It just adds a little yellow note to the white. But I don't. Yeah, I probably could do without it, but I don't. You know what I mean? It's just there now, isn't it? You end up with all these colours, and you're like, but even in the studio, I take them back and forth to the freezer, and I'm probably not use them for a week. No, but because you put them in the freezer, they're still all right. You know what I mean?
Was it you said about paintings to keep the paint wet on a painting that you put it in a chest freezer as well?
Yeah, well, that's what I do. That's it. I put it in the top shelf of the freezer.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes you get paint on the freezer door, and next thing it's all over the kitchen cupboards and everything. That's another story, isn't it? But we've all done that, haven't we? We've all stood in phthalo blue and walked it on the sole of our foot through the house. I'm sure we've all done that, haven't we? Or is that? It might just be me, I don't know.
It's just the hazards of oil paint, just track it all the way around the house. But and I also like to ask about people's experience with galleries. Has it been always a good experience, or have you had a mixed experience with galleries? What's that been like?
We talked about this, didn't we? Generally good. I'm just trying to think. Good galleries. I think if you get in the right galleries, they'll look after you and invest in you. I used to be in quite a lot of galleries. When you get into a gallery, you think, wow, fantastic. And another one comes, and you don't want to say no. You're so pleased that somebody wants your work, and so you don't say no. You're like, yeah. And the next thing you know, the next what happened to me was I ended up spreading myself too thin. So then I was upsetting some galleries because I wasn't giving them work, and I was giving this gallery work. So it came to a point where I had to thin it down and choose the galleries that were doing more for me, perhaps, than another gallery. So, and that worked out well. So I'm in a few galleries now, not a massive amount, but they do a good job. Yeah,
That's good. Yeah, because it is a spectrum of what they can offer, and it's also almost they almost go in tiers, galleries, aren't they? There's the pay to play galleries, which I consider at the bottom rung, where you've got to pay for wall space, and high street galleries, and then there's a bit more privately run galleries, and it kind of just gets more and more of a kind of achievement to be part of a show, because you're showing with more experienced artists and established names, and that's usually what people should be considering if they're on that trajectory of an art career. I remember my art teacher, one of my tutors in art school and university, told me about how a couple of his galleries are quite close to each other and they don't get along. No. And he had one night where there was an event at each of the galleries, and he had to run from one to the other, which I thought sounded commit. I mean, I told him it was like Mrs. Doubtfire at the restaurant scene, where he'd dress up as one person and take off his outfit, go to the other one, and pretend that he was different person.
Galleries. I mean, I'm in Panter and Hall in London, which is a great gallery, and I've got an opportunity just come up to have a small pop-up show in another part of London. Not representation, but just like being part of a show thing. But I always approached. So I've approached Panter and Hall and just said, would you mind if I did this pop-up show in London? I always make sure I approach them in that sense, because I don't like to upset galleries, and that, as you say, then if the galleries are close to each other, then it can create a bit of a rift, But so I always try and not do that. And if that does happen, it has happened in Manchester, where I maybe done a little show somewhere else, but I would always be open about it,
Yeah.
you know, and be upfront about it rather than secretive. And that kind of works, I think, you know.
Yeah, it's the most ethical way.
Yeah, generally. I mean, galleries, like Panter and Hall said, no, fantastic, go for it. It's all, you know, it's all part of the promoting, you know, yourself as an artist, and it helps them, and it helps them, and it helps them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the way I look at it. I know some galleries don't look at it like that,
No.
but I do. You know, that's what I think. You know?
Yeah. I misspoke, not ethical. The best etiquette, I should say, for working with galleries. It's the correct etiquette to kind of check with the gallery you're established before showing it one where it might create friction.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. So if people want to see your work, which galleries do you exhibit at?
So I'm at Panter and Hall in London. I'm at Contemporary 6 in Manchester. And I'm going to upset some galleries. I think I said that. I'm going to have to remember them all now. Hepplestone Fine Art in Lancashire. Priory Gallery in the Cotswolds. York Fine Arts in Yorkshire. And Scotland Fine Art in Glasgow. Beaux Fine Arts in Bath.
Oh, very good.
Beaux Fine Arts in Bath is a great gallery, but I've sort of only just got on board with them, or I'm sort of in the process of it. So, and the Mall Galleries, which is the home of the Royal Institute of Oil Painters, so I exhibit there as well. And not only the Royal Institute of Oil Painters, a lot of the societies use that, the New English Art Club and the Royal British Artists and the Discerning Eye exhibitions there and everything. But that's another great gallery if you're in London to go and
Brilliant.
look. Yeah.
Well, obviously, anyone who can see it in person, I recommend it. I will certainly jump at the chance to see your work in person because nothing really compares to seeing paintings in the flesh.
No, it doesn't. I mean, like I said, just come back from Barcelona, and I went to see the exhibition at the Meme Gallery, and it was an urban exhibition. And they had some artists in there that I really admire, some American artists, and so I want to. So we decided to fly over and go and see the show. Thank you. Go and see the show, and it blew me away. You know, seeing them in the flesh, and then but there was another show running alongside it, the Realist show, and wow, that just blew me away as well. You know, to get to these, you know, I can't emphasize that enough. To go out and see these shows and things, it really inspires you. You know, and but whenever I see work like that, I just want to get home and paint. It just makes me want to paint. Like if you're struggling and you think, what can I paint? Or I'm not in the mood, just go to these shows because, like, you know, they really do inspire you.
But if anyone can't see your work in person, where online would you like them to go to see your work and to support you?
Well, I've got a website, www.michaeljohnashcroft.com or .co.uk. And you can subscribe to the newsletter on there, which is free. And there's a monthly newsletter that goes out, and I think the next one coming out is about Barcelona. So I might show some more images on there of what we've been up to. So you can keep up to date that way. And I'm on all the social media platforms, of course, mainly Instagram. So that, do you want me to give the are you going to put it on there?
It'll be linked in the description of the audio and video.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I forget what.
Don't worry, that's fine.
I forget all the names are. So I'm on all the social media platforms. Like I said, I've just started the YouTube. Well, I've not just started. I've been going at it, but I'm trying to do.
Starting to feed it now. So.
Yeah. But I may upscale that, you know, in the next few weeks. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, there will be links in the description of all of your social media and of the galleries. So if anyone wants to see it, we highly recommend people visit that. It's amazing work. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's been such a pleasure to have you on again. And I'm so sorry it didn't happen the first time, but it's great to catch up with you again. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you. Thanks, Simon. Really enjoyed it.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you can support the podcast by leaving a like or a comment down below, that would really be great. But what we'd really like is if you're able to leave a review on the podcast channels, wherever you listen to it or download it, because that helps us get spread around the internet so that more people have access to us and able to see what we're making.
Also, follow us on Instagram, and we'd really appreciate it if you like and engage with our posts. Help get the podcast better known. Thanks for listening.